There are specific moments in life where a person walks into your world and suddenly the idea of coincidence disappears completely. You may try to look back at everything that happened before this moment and search for a logical explanation. You may try to rebuild the timeline in your mind and understand how everything led here. But deep inside, something already knows that logic was never really in control of this. This person did not simply enter your life by chance. It felt like they arrived with a purpose that you could sense, even if you could not explain it. From the very beginning of meeting them, there was a feeling that this was not random. It felt inevitable in a quiet way that you could not ignore. When they arrived, something inside you shifted. It was not loud or dramatic, but it was deep and lasting. It changed something in your inner world, something that affects how you see your future and how you feel about yourself. Even now, when you try to move on and convince yourself that it is over, there is still a pull that does not fully leave you. When you try to think your way out of the feeling, it does not disappear. Instead, it keeps bringing your attention back. Not in a desperate way, but in a way that feels familiar, like something within your own history that you cannot fully detach from. If this message has reached you, it is not by accident. Moments like this tend to arrive when something inside a person is ready to understand it. Life often brings awareness at the exact moment it is needed, even if it does not feel like it at first. Right now, something deep inside you is beginning to wake up. It is a kind of awareness that slowly starts to see things differently. It does not fully agree with the logical explanations you try to give yourself. Instead, it gently challenges them and refuses to stay quiet. You may feel divided inside. Part of you wants to move forward and let go. Another part of you still holds on to what was felt. You may find yourself caught between memory and acceptance, between emotional truth and practical thinking. This creates an inner conflict where you are trying to hold two different realities at the same time. One part of you trusts what you feel in your heart. Another part doubts it because of what is happening on the surface of your life. Silence makes this harder. Distance makes it even more confusing. When there is no clarity from the outside, the mind begins to question everything. You may even wonder if you imagined the depth of what you felt, or if it was never real at all. But illusions do not usually survive time. When something is only imagined, it fades. Yet what you feel has not faded in the same way. Even after months or distance, something in you still holds on to it. That is not something the mind easily creates and maintains without reason. This connection feels like it matters in a deeper way, not just to your emotions, but to your growth. It is not about obsession, because obsession is loud and unstable. What you feel is quieter, more steady, and more rooted inside you than that. It sits beneath your thoughts and shows itself in moments you do not expect. Sometimes it rises in silence. Sometimes it appears in emotions that come without warning. It is not constant noise. It is something deeper that stays underneath everything else. Connections that change us never feel shallow. They rearrange something within us. They change how we think, how we feel, and how we respond to life. Once that change happens, it cannot simply be undone by distance or silence. Even if the other person appears calm or distant, it does not always mean they feel nothing. Often silence means the feeling is too large or too complicated to express. Some people do not know how to hold what they feel, so they hide it instead. Their distance may not come from a lack of care. It may come from fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of being seen too deeply. Fear of losing control over emotions that feel too intense or unfamiliar. This is where many deep connections struggle. One person begins to awaken emotionally faster, while the other is still trying to understand what they feel. When this imbalance happens, one person may pull back, while the other feels the distance more strongly. In such moments, you can become a mirror for the other person. You reflect emotions and truths they may not be ready to face. And when someone is shown parts of themselves they have avoided, they often step back instead of leaning in. What is unconscious does not disappear just because it is ignored. Until it is understood, it continues to influence choices, emotions, and behavior. It can feel like fate, but it is often unresolved inner truth waiting to be seen. Right now, they may still be guided by things they have not fully faced. But once awareness begins, it does not fully go away. A person cannot easily return to the same level of ignorance once something inside them has been awakened. You entered their life in a way that brought emotional truth forward. You reminded them of honesty, vulnerability, and real connection. Something inside them that had been quiet for a long time became active again. That kind of impact does not simply disappear. The universe does not treat meaningful meetings as random events. Even when people separate, the effect of such connections continues to exist in subtle ways. If something were truly finished, it would usually feel clear and complete. But instead, you may notice signs, reminders, or dreams that feel too meaningful to ignore. These moments can feel like signals, even if they are not fully understood. There is a difference between forcing an outcome and allowing something to unfold in its own time. Forcing creates pressure. Allowing creates space. Your hope is not weakness. It is often your intuition trying to guide you through uncertainty. Something is shifting beneath the surface. It is not loud, but it is steady. Resistance slowly begins to soften over time. What once felt closed begins to loosen in ways that are not always visible at first. The heart that once tried to protect itself begins to soften under the weight of what it truly feels. And slowly, the idea of loss becomes harder to accept than the idea of change or return. Patience becomes important here. Not the kind of patience that waits in anxiety, but the kind that stays grounded while still trusting life. You do not lose yourself while waiting. You stay connected to your own value. As you take in this message, notice what feels calm and what feels tense. Truth does not need force. If something resonates, it usually feels quiet and steady inside you, rather than chaotic or fearful. What you are experiencing is not just waiting, it is transformation. The connection is not simply frozen in place, it is changing shape as you are also changing through it. Since this connection entered your life, you are not the same person you were before. You have become more aware of your emotions. Your standards have become clearer. You no longer accept connections that feel empty or incomplete. Sometimes a connection enters your life not to stay immediately, but to awaken something inside you. Once that awakening happens, you cannot return to the version of yourself that accepted less. Letting go feels difficult because it is tied to what you have learned about yourself through this experience. You discovered your depth, your emotional capacity, and your ability to feel deeply with another person. These kinds of connections rarely move in straight lines. They move in cycles. They return to the same lessons again and again, each time at a deeper level. They ask for honesty, courage, and self-awareness. The challenge is often timing. One person may be ready to grow, while the other is still processing fear or resistance. This difference can create distance, even when feelings still exist. Unfinished emotional connections do not disappear easily. They often return in thoughts, memories, or moments of silence when everything else becomes quiet. At times, you may feel like you are on their mind in the same way they are on yours. Not because of constant communication, but because emotional impressions can linger beyond words. These signs are not meant to confuse you. They often serve as reminders to stay grounded in yourself. They bring attention back to what you feel and what you know deep inside. There is a difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says you need someone to be complete. Alignment says you are already whole on your own, and connection should support that wholeness, not replace it. When you stop chasing clarity and start living in your truth, something shifts. The pressure reduces. The emotional noise becomes quieter. You begin to feel more stable within yourself. From that place, connection can exist without anxiety. It becomes more real, more grounded, and more open to what is truly possible rather than what is feared. People sense this change. They feel when your energy is no longer chasing or waiting in the same way. That shift changes the dynamic between you and them. At some point, the situation becomes something that must be chosen consciously. Fear begins to lose its control. The possibility of loss becomes clearer, and emotional truth becomes harder to ignore. You chose growth and honesty within yourself, and now the other person is also facing their own inner decision, whether to move forward or remain in fear. What comes next will not come from pressure. It will come from alignment. If return happens, it will be with clarity and intention. If it does not, you will still remain grounded in your own peace. You now understand the difference between chemistry and true compatibility, between longing and alignment, between emotional pull and real connection that supports your growth. Whatever unfolds next will meet you where you are now. Not where you used to be, but where you have grown into through this entire experience. There comes a point where longing transforms into understanding. You no longer ask why everything is happening. Instead, you begin to see that it is shaping you into something stronger and more aware than before. Pain slowly turns into wisdom, and what once felt like confusion begins to make sense as part of your own personal growth and transformation. This connection came into your life for a reason. It was never meant to simply bring emotions or temporary excitement. It arrived to reveal parts of yourself that had been hidden for a long time. It came to remove what was false and to help you see your life with greater honesty. Before this person entered your world, there were beliefs, fears, and patterns that quietly shaped many of your decisions. Some of them protected you, some of them limited you. This connection began exposing those hidden parts of your inner world. It showed you the difference between emotional intensity and genuine intimacy. It taught you the difference between holding on because of fear and remaining connected because of love. As this understanding continues to grow inside you, something important is happening. The suffering that once felt overwhelming is slowly losing its power. It no longer controls every thought. It no longer defines every day. The emotional storms that once consumed your attention are beginning to settle. You may notice that your thoughts about this person are changing. They still appear in your mind, but they arrive differently now. There is less desperation. There is less panic. There is more stillness. There is more acceptance. You are starting to see the situation with clearer eyes instead of viewing it through fear and uncertainty. This change within you affects the entire connection. Whenever one person grows in a meaningful way, the energy between two people must respond. Nothing remains exactly the same when genuine growth takes place. Energy naturally seeks balance. When you stop chasing answers, life begins moving differently. When you stop forcing clarity, clarity often finds its own way to you. As your energy becomes calmer, they can feel the difference too. What reaches them now is no longer a need for validation. It is no longer emotional pressure. It is your presence. And that presence carries a power they cannot easily ignore. In many ways, this affects them more deeply than pursuit ever could. When someone is constantly chasing, the focus stays on the chase itself. But when silence arrives with peace and self-respect, it carries a different meaning. Your silence is no longer speaking of rejection, it is speaking of growth. It is speaking of healing. It is speaking of someone who has turned inward and begun doing the work that truly matters. As they sense this shift, they are being pushed towards something they may have avoided for a very long time. They are being asked to confront themselves honestly. They are being asked to look at the emotional walls they built over the years. They are being asked to examine the habits and defenses that once felt necessary. For a long time, those walls provided safety. They protected them from disappointment. They protected them from vulnerability. They protected them from emotional risk. But what once protected them is now creating distance. The same walls that kept pain away are also keeping love away. The same control that once felt safe now feels limiting. The same patterns that once provided comfort now create isolation. They are standing before an important choice. Moving forward requires vulnerability. It requires openness. It requires honesty. It requires the courage to risk being seen. Remaining where they are requires something else. It requires letting go of something rare. It requires walking away from a connection that continues to hold deep meaning. That is not an easy decision for anyone. At the same time, your future is not determined by how much you hope. It is not determined by how often you think about them. It is not determined by how badly you want a certain outcome. Your future is shaped by how deeply you honor yourself during this process. Every time you choose self-respect over fear, you become stronger. Every time you choose truth over illusion, your path becomes clearer. Every time you remain connected to your own worth, life begins opening doors that were once hidden. The more authentic you become, the easier it becomes for everyone involved to see what is real. Whether this journey leads to reunion or peaceful release, something important has already changed. It no longer has the power to destroy you. You are stronger than you were before. You have survived moments that once felt impossible. You have learned lessons that could only be gained through experience. You have discovered parts of yourself that may never have emerged without this connection. Your soul recognizes that there is still meaning here. There are still truths waiting to be revealed. There are still emotions waiting to be understood. Some words were never spoken. Some feelings were never fully expressed. Some conversations were never allowed to happen. But unspoken feelings do not simply disappear. They remain beneath the surface. They wait quietly. They wait for courage. They wait for the moment when honesty becomes stronger than fear. Fear is standing in front of both of you right now. Your task has been learning how to trust your inner knowing, even when external proof was missing. Their task is learning how to open their heart without hiding behind old defenses. Both lessons are unfolding. Both journeys are moving forward, and because of that, something inside you is changing. You may notice that the idea of reunion feels different than it once did. It no longer feels frantic. It no longer feels desperate. It no longer feels like something you must have at any cost. You want something deeper now. You want honesty. You want consistency. You want clarity. You want real presence. You are no longer willing to accept confusion disguised as destiny. You are no longer willing to mistake uncertainty for spiritual significance. You are no longer willing to settle for mixed signals and unanswered questions. Your standards have changed because you have changed. And those new standards create a silent invitation. They call others to meet you at that higher level. True soul connections are not meant to trap people in endless suffering. They are meant to guide people back to themselves. They are meant to reveal truth. They are meant to inspire growth. That alignment is happening within you now. Because of this, communication may begin opening in unexpected ways. Doors that once seemed closed may slowly begin to move. Conversations that felt impossible may start becoming possible. There is movement beneath the surface. But there is no need to rush. What is real does not need to be forced. What is genuine does not need manipulation. True reconnection cannot be rushed. It unfolds in its own time. It arrives when both people are capable of meeting each other honestly. If fear rises inside you, allow it to exist without giving it control. Fear is often just a memory, trying to protect you from experiences that have already passed. You are not the same person you used to be. You have grown, you have healed, you have learned. And because of that growth, You no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. Your worth is already visible. It is visible in your choices. It is visible in your boundaries. It is visible in your strength. It is visible in the way you continue moving forward, even when the path feels uncertain. Life responds to what you embody. Pay attention to how your body feels as you move through this chapter. Notice the difference between tension and peace. Notice the difference between fear and truth. When your body begins feeling more open and less restricted, it is often a sign that you are moving closer to alignment. The next chapter is not about forcing outcomes. It is about allowing life to reveal what is real. It is about allowing love to show itself honestly. This connection is moving toward truth. Whether that truth becomes reunion or understanding, it is still unfolding. There is still movement taking place. There is still courage developing. There is still a conversation waiting for the moment when both people are ready to approach it from a place of wholeness rather than fear. For now, remain grounded. Remain present. Trust what is unfolding without trying to control every detail. The next phase of this journey will require discernment. It will require wisdom. It will require strength. Fortunately, those qualities are already growing inside you. There is a special kind of strength that develops when you stop looking outside yourself for constant reassurance. You stop searching for signs everywhere. You stop analyzing every detail. You stop needing the world to repeatedly confirm what your heart already knows. Instead, something settles inside you. A deeper trust begins to form. A quieter confidence begins to grow. You start trusting the process itself. This connection continues serving as a mirror. It reflects where you are today. It reflects who you are becoming. It reveals both your strengths and your opportunities for growth. You no longer feel compelled to defend your feelings to people who do not understand. You no longer need permission to honor your own experience. You know what you feel. You know what you have learned. And that knowledge creates stability. Real love is not proven through confusion. Real love is not measured through uncertainty. Real love creates clarity. Real love creates growth. Real love encourages honesty. As your inner stability increases, the entire landscape of your life begins changing. When you stop twisting yourself into different shapes just to keep a connection alive, the connection must eventually respond honestly. Either it rises to meet you, or it reveals where it cannot. Both outcomes provide truth, and truth is always valuable. They feel this transformation. The space once filled by your effort is no longer available for them to depend on. The energy that once carried anxiety is no longer driving your actions. Your presence has become cleaner, stronger, more authentic. That authenticity creates a mirror they cannot avoid. It brings hidden feelings to the surface. It forces unresolved emotions into the light. It asks difficult questions. It invites honest answers. As this happens, they begin feeling the weight of what could be lost. Responsibility begins awakening within them. Reflection begins deepening within them. You have already chosen growth. You have already chosen integrity. Now they stand before a similar choice. The direction of this story is changing. You may even sense moments of closeness without any words being exchanged. A sudden feeling of warmth, a moment of peace, a quiet awareness that something is shifting. This is resonance. Distance may delay expression, but it cannot erase a meaningful connection. Clarity is approaching, and when it arrives, it will not ask you to abandon yourself. It will not ask you to become smaller. It will not ask you to compromise the person you have worked so hard to become. Love is meant to be lived, not merely imagined. That is why everything has slowed down. That is why patience has become necessary. Anything built before this awareness would likely have collapsed under pressure. But what is being built now carries a stronger foundation. If they return, it will be through genuine intention. It will be through accountability. It will be through honesty. It will be through the willingness to meet you in the open and authentic space you now occupy. And if they do not return, you will still be whole. You will still stand strong. You will still move forward. Because the greatest reunion that has already taken place is the reunion with your own soul. And once you return to yourself, nothing can truly take that away from you.